Okay, all praises. So today we're going to forego our reading from Babylon Timbuktu. We're gonna go over some, I guess I say, some core or foundational principles or some just great questions that were asked. So we're going to go over the first thing we're going to address today. Are we legalists? Are we legalists? And we're going to examine the Shabbat to determine if we're legalists or not. And then the second question we're going to revisit where we started last week is, was the Messiah crucified on Passover or not? And the last question we'll address is, does the days for us begin in the evening from sundown to sundown? That doctrine's been taught. I accepted when I came in. So we're going to go over, walk it down step by step, and try to get some understanding. And hopefully, last week some people saw it, some didn't. So I'm going to take my time and try to lay it out and see if we can get the correct understanding. And if we can't get to it, some topics won't get resolved till our King comes. But we're going to do the best we can do with the information we got. So everything is done with decency and order. What I'm going to do is I'm going to present all the information I have today. And when we go over these classes, family, no topic is exhausted. If I gave you all the research that I came across over these years, we wouldn't get past one topic. So most times when I give you the information, I'm trying to give you the black and white in your face information. And it's not the finality of these classes. What it is a springboard for you to take this, verify it, and then go further. Go further. So no topic that we ever go over is ever a closed subject, and by no means is all the information exhausted. It's just a starting place for you. So we're going to ask that as we present the topics, those online in-house, just jot down your questions and save it for the very end, and then we'll afford time for everybody to try to get their question asked and answered if we can. If we can't, I'm not a prideful man. I tell you, I don't know. I haven't come to that understanding. But this way, everybody benefits from the questions, because Bereans asked some great questions. And I know many of you don't realize it, but last week was probably one of the best classes we've ever had. And you're going to see why, hopefully, by the end of today. So the first thing we're going to address is, are we legalists? So if you talk to a seminary teacher or preacher, they have 15,000 definitions for a legalist. My simple definition is, you're a legalist if you believe keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments make you righteous. Keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments do not make you righteous. And a couple years ago, I was having a conversation with one of the doctor seminaries, and he says, well, why keep the law if it don't make you righteous? And I says, because it's part of our contract. We don't have a choice. Paul told them, as Paul was trying to win over the pagan Israelites called Greeks, he told them, and let's go to it so we're not paraphrasing. Let's go to 1 Corinthians 10 and 4. I believe that's the one I want. 1 Corinthians 10 and 4 is the first precept. 1 Corinthians 10 and 4, Shema, when you have it. Shema.
Shema.
So that's the one I want from going from memory. Second, thank you, Al. So, Salakia family, is 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians 10 and 4.
Shema.
No. No, that's not it. Go back to, I think it is 1 Corinthians. Try 1 Corinthians. My memory is not good as it used to be. There's a precept, maybe it's in Romans. I'm sorry, Slovakia family. I wanted Romans. Romans 10 and 4. My memory is not as good as it used to be. Y'all help me in this. So Romans 10 and 4. Shema, when you have it.
Shema.
Read.
For Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone that believeth.
So the seminary preachers stop right there when he says Christ is the end of the law. And I call that cherry picking. You just cherry pick the verse, you hit your organs, and you got our Israelite people in sin. He says Christ is the end of the law. If he said, if the law was ended, he would have stopped right then and there. Christ is the end of the law. But Paul added for righteousness. So the Dr. Seminary says, well, if the law don't make you righteous, why should we keep the law? Because it's part of our contract. It's part of the covenant. So let's see how we should keep this Shabbat. Because when you come into this thing, so many brothers have turned this thing into a legalist system. If you don't have your head covered, the sisters in pants, if you ain't keeping the Shabbat like them, you're not in the truth. Your Moreh don't know what he's talking about. And all these people are caught up in their flesh, and they don't have the spirit or the Ruach of our King Yeshua. So we're going to examine how we set apart the Shabbat. And we're going to pick this up in Nehemiah chapter 10 and 31 is the first one. Nehemiah 10 and 31. And to me, just to give you a background, the reason why this is my pet peeve, I can tolerate doctrinal differences. We all are not left brain or right brain. So we can all perceive a verse differently. That's not my issue. My issue is when these brothers put burdens on people and have people suffering in captivity, and then you are determining who's in the truth or not, or who's dedicated to the Most High. That's when wickedness creeps in, and that's when you get a super Hebrew. Those online, if you came online late in the room, the handouts was sent via email, and Sister Latoya has confirmed that you can open the documents up. Nehemiah 10 and 31. Shema?
Shema.
Read.
And if the people of the land bring ware or any victuals on the Sabbath day to sell, that we would not buy it from them of them on the Sabbath or on a holy day, that we would leave the 7th year in the exaction of every debt.
Now let's go back and get it again over in chapter 13. Chapter 13 and pick it up at verse 14 through 18. Nehemiah 13 verses 14 through 18.
Shema.
Shema? Read.
Remember me, O my God, concerning this, and wipe not out my good deeds that I have done for the house of my Elohim, and for the offices thereof. In those days I saw in Judah some treading wine presses on the Sabbath, and bringing in sheaves, and lading asses, as also wine, grapes and figs, and all manner of burdens, which thou brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I testified against them in the day wherewith they sold victuals. There dwelt men of Tyre, also therein, which brought fish and all manner of ware, and sold on the Sabbath unto the children of Judah, and in Jerusalem. Then I contended with the nobles of Judah, and said unto them, What evil thing is this ye do, and profane the Sabbath day? Did not your fathers thus, and did not our all power bring all this evil upon us and upon this city? Yet ye bring more wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath.
So, the last witness we don't have to read because it's saying the same thing, and it's there on your sheet in Amos chapter 8, verses 4 to 5. But when you go back and examine these verses, these wicked Israelites are not buying and selling to celebrate the Sabbath. They're not buying some juice to bring to the Shabbat. They're not ordering a pizza. This is commerce. This is trafficking. Victuals and wares, tread and wine press, that's not a glass of wine. You're manufacturing. You're running your whole business on the Shabbat like the Most High don't matter. So some of these brothers they think they have understanding, but this buying and selling is not you buying an individual item so we can all honor the Most High and have a great Shabbat. They're manufacturing. Asses laden with burdens. In today's terminology, they would be going to the warehouse getting boxes. They're trafficking on the Most High's day. So some of these teachers, rabbis, elders, whoever you want to call yourself, I'm not caught up in titles, we're servants. Whether you honor the lunar Shabbat or you keep Saturday, they make it a burden and they become legalists. But all those super duper Hebrews, you super duper Morays, when you stream your Sabbath service, you're buying time from your cellular provider. You're buying on the Sabbath. If you have to travel to your Sabbath, you just travel. So these people don't have an understanding. They're caught up in their carnality. And don't let these people put their convictions on you. It's the spirit behind what you do. So if you got to come and if you can't take the lunar Shabbat off because of your financial situation, you are a slave in Babylon. The Most High knows your heart. He knows where you are. He knew who's going to wake up, who's not. Don't let another man tell you how to honor your king. And the one story I share, won't put no names out there because that's not righteousness, has this one elder will always just condescend to people on the plantation, your loyalty to the plantation. But then he had a whole 2-hour class saying if we didn't do what we needed to do and donate to his ministry, he's going to have to go back to the plantation. And we won't be able to get all this good teaching. What part of the book is that? That's why you have to be Bereans, never become sheep and let someone think for you. I don't care how long they've been teaching. I don't care if they baptized 5,000 in one day. Because when you read Paul's history in the New Testament, everywhere Paul went, he went first and found his tradesmen. Paul was a tent maker. So he would travel to that city, find the brethren, says, I'm here, and he would work with his hands during the day, building tents or tabernacles, then he would teach at night. So if Paul, with his life on the line, because he had his old homeboys, the Pharisees, wanting to kill him, then he had those idol makers want to kill him, because now you're taking their livelihood. If he can work during the day and teach at night, I don't want to hear no elder talk about, if you don't donate to my ministry, I got to go back to the plantation. Because those donations we gave you came from us working on the plantation. It's a hypocrite. Don't let nobody put these burdens on you. I'm real patient and tolerant with the different doctrinal. I can understand we're children of slaves. But when I detect wickedness, you're fleecing the people, that's when the south side of me come out. Because it's hard enough for us waking up trying to grasp this thing. It's hard enough for us to leave Jesus alone. It's hard enough for us to leave Christmas alone. Now you got somebody on the verge trying to come in and you doing that wickedness. So no, I don't condone these moray wars, calling somebody out on their lesson. No. Because if they publish their lesson, you could reach them, hey, Washim, you don't know me, man, but I want to talk to you about something. You don't have to go and publish, oh, he posted that lesson, let me chop that lesson real quick. You're wicked. You're wicked. That's why I'm protective of us, and we don't associate with a lot of groups. All praise be to Yah. There's a lot of brothers waking up. They used to be Christian pastors. Now they're turning their churches into Hebrew assembly. All praises. But it don't work like that. You don't have understanding like that. It goes deeper. And praise Yah, you're doing the best you can, but they're going to have to retract a lot because their understanding is limited. They're just putting God on a bunch of Christian customs. And there's a lot of Christian practices creeping up in this assembly. I watched a lesson the other day. Elder says, "Is fringes and garments commanded?" And this elder has one of the biggest churches in this assembly, in this awakening. And this elder used the precepts, some precepts he uttered, and the gist of his presentation is, we're in a new covenant. And everyone, amen, hallelujah. Just because I say you understand, don't start shaking your head and understand. Don't say con if you don't understand. That's Christian customs. We're not about that. If you don't get it, you don't get it. Maybe you'll get it in a couple days. Maybe it'll come to you while you're praying or fasting. Just say, Elder Moray, I can't see it right now, but I'm going to keep trying. Or present some information. Hey, Elder Moray, did you read this? And we're examining it. No one's greater than anybody in this assembly. So don't let these brothers put their wicked burdens on you. So let's go to the Brit Hadashah. Let's go to the New Testament and let's get some understanding. Let's go to Matthew chapter 12. Matthew chapter 12. Matthew chapter 12. My blood pressure boiling just thinking about that. Matthew chapter 12, verses 1 through 8. Matthew 12, verses 1 through 8. Shema, will you have it?
Shema.
Y'all hot?
It's a little toasty.
I'm about to tell my cold. That's that door.
Yeah, I'll turn it down. I'll turn it down.
Like Babylon. Real Babylon.
Feel real tropical?
Yeah, real tropical. Matthew 12, verses 1, Shema.
Shema.
Read.
At that time, Yeshua went on the Sabbath day through the corn, and his disciples were hungered and began to pluck the ears of corn and to eat. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, Behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath day.
Why are the Pharisees just stalking? What y'all call it? Why are they trolling the Messiah? Just trolling him, trying to catch him and stuff. We walking through the corn. Where's all that?
That's right.
I just thought that was weird. Continue.
But he said unto them, Have you not read what David did when he was hungered, and they that were with him? How he entered into the house of Yah and did eat the showbread, which was not lawful for him to eat, neither for them which were with him, but only for the priests. Or have you not read in the law how that on the Sabbath days the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are blameless? But I say unto you that in this place is one greater than the temple. But if ye had known what this meaneth, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, ye would not have condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is Elohim, even on the Sabbath day.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
So Yeshua told these Pharisees, and the Pharisees, who their true identity is within these scriptures too, but that's another lesson. He told them, David and his whole men came into the temple and went and ate the showbread. The showbread was the last bit of the manna that before the Most High dried up the manna when we was coming out of Egypt, he kept some. And he told the children of Israel to keep this in the temple. But I'm sorry, Shalakia. The showbread is fresh bread that the Levites will make every Shabbat. It was only for them. Six loaves stacked for the 12 tribes. So David and his men, going about hungry, went and entered the temple and ate the showbread. So a thinking man would say, the disciples are plucking corn on the Sabbath. These are Israelites, never lost their identity. They know they're Israelites, they're Jews. They knew when the Sabbath was coming. Why didn't they prepare for the Sabbath? Why didn't they prepare for the Sabbath? They knew it was coming. You and I, we're trying to relearn this stuff. There's all kind of disagreements. But these are Israelites home. Never got kicked out. They know the calendar. Why didn't disciples of Yeshua prepare the day before? Yeshua referenced King David. King David and his men. These are warriors, hunters. They can peg you off about 100 yards out. Why didn't they kill something in the wilderness the day before and have it prepared for the Sabbath? These men, these mores, are caught up in their flesh, putting burdens on us. We are the children of the slaves, doing the best we can. If you have to work on a lunar Shabbat, Yah knows. Choose to set it apart. Being holy, it just means Kadash. Y'all know Kadash for us means set apart. Set the day apart the best you can in this captivity. Shema?
Shema.
So we're not legalists. We follow the law because it's our contract.
Amen.
But our righteousness, us being restored to our rightful place, was done by the blood of our King. Shema?
Shema.
So moving on. Moving on. The next point, so if you have any questions, jot down your questions, concerns, and comments based on being a legalist or Shabbat, and we'll continue on. At the very end, we'll give everyone time. So our next point we're going to revisit is pinning down the crucifixion and resurrection. Last week, some was able to see it, some couldn't. So we're going to try to revisit to see if we can get this. I can do a better job today. Shema.
Shema.
So let's go back to Matthew 26. Let's go back to Matthew 26. And remember I said that Matthew's record, his gospel, is the oldest. He wrote his first. Then the three other patriarchs or elders wrote some history based on their understanding and what they could remember. So Matthew 26, and we'll pick this up at verse 2 again. Shema.
Shema.
Read.
Ye know that after 2 days is the feast of the Passover, and the Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified.
You know that after 2 days is the Passover. The Son of Man is betrayed to be crucified. So this gives us our time stamp. If Passover is in 2 days, on our calendar, this has to be a bib 12. Because 12 plus 2 is 14. So that's our time stamp. He is saying this on Abib the 12th. Let's get another witness in Mark. Let's go to Mark 14.
Shema.
Mark 14:1.
Shema.
Read.
After 2 days was the feast of Passover and of unleavened bread. And the chief priests and the scribes sought how they might take him by craft and put him to death.
So Mark co-signs that we're at Abib 12. If Matthew, for some reason, had got it wrong, his memory was fuzzy, Mark had an opportunity to read Matthew's scroll because Matthew's scroll was written first and it began to circulate before the others. So if Matthew had got it wrong, Mark would have had an opportunity to say, hey, Matthew, it wasn't the 12th, it was such and such. But Mark confirms that our timestamps begins on the 12th of Abib. 2 or more witnesses in our community, let everything be established. So now let's go back to Matthew 26 and continue with verse 3.
Oh, we have one more verse in that.
I'm sorry, thank you. Go ahead.
Mark 14, verse 2. But they said, not on the feast day, lest there be an uproar of the people.
They said what?
Not on the feast day.
They said not on the feast day, at least there be an uproar of the people. Let's go back and get another witness and let's see what Matthew said. Matthew 26 and verse 3. Matthew 26 and 3.
Shema.
Shema. Read.
Then assembled together the chief priests and the scribes and the elders of the people unto the palace of the high priest, who was called Caiaphas, and consulted that they might take Yeshua by subtlety and kill him. But they said, not on the feast day, lest there be an uproar among the people.
Not on the feast day, at least there be an uproar. This has been in our face the whole time. But when you sit in assemblies, whether it be a Hebrew assembly or a Christian assembly, and you under pressure, how many of y'all want to go to heaven? How many of y'all saved? You feel pressure, I better say I'm saved. I just smoked 10 blunts before I came in here and used some air freshener. So this been in our face the whole time. They knew if they killed our king on the feast day, the whole Jews will, because this kills two birds with one stone. The false doctrine that Yeshua was deemed to be crazy and he only had a few disciples, that's Christian doctrine. That's Christian doctrine. Every time he taught somewhere, more and more Israelites, Jews, believed on him. So these people who want him dead, they're Israelites. They're Jews too. They're the Sanhedrin. And not even all of them wanted him dead. Because there was another Pharisee or Sanhedrin priest who became Yeshua's homeboy. Y'all know who that is?
Zacharias. Lazarus.
Not Lazarus. Nicodemus. Nicodemus was part of the Sanhedrin. He came to Yeshua in the night, and that's when Yeshua was explaining to him. Nicodemus says, how can a man be born again? Can he re-enter his mother's womb? And then Yeshua says, are you a master in Israel and know not these things? That's Matthew 3 or John 3. So that gives us the remember when you're studying, you write down the who, what, when, where, and why. John 3:16 is not talking about Yah loved the world. He asked Nicodemus, are you not a ruler in Israel and know not these things? That's right. So when Yeshua says for Yah so loved the world, he was talking about the world of Israel. The same little phrase right now, little Benjamin is caught up in his own world. Is he somewhere in outer space? No, he's doing his own thing. So it's the same precept or concept when we read Yah so loved the world of Israel. Because when you go back to John 3:1, it says, and Nicodemus came to him by night. So this precept that they didn't want to kill Yeshua on the Passover is bearing witness he wasn't killed on the 14th. It's been in our face the whole time. But again, when you're sitting in an assembly and these brothers coming from the streets, Most High bless them because they could still be in the streets, but they make it threatening to challenge them. You don't bring thug mentality in here. If you want to bring it, you can. I'm from the South Side too, but it's unrighteousness. If someone has a question they don't understand, be patient with them and let them ask their question. I used to tell my children, my birth children, and when I worked in the schools, these teachers get a salary to teach you. I don't care if everyone in the room understands. If you don't understand, you be man enough to say, I don't understand. My parents' salary or taxes is paying your salary. You want to teach me. When I got to university, again, I was around inner city brothers, but we know I gotta get this paper. These classes is how I get my bread. So I don't care, we're in auditorium 400 deep. If I don't understand your presentation, I'm paying, my school was like $380 something a credit. So a 4 credit class is how much? Oh, you gonna teach me? You gonna teach me? So when you're in these assemblies, you don't understand, don't just say con, yeah. But don't challenge the teacher. If you're too shy, go privately. Says, hey, Morale, I don't really see that. This has been in our face the whole time. They said 2 witnesses, Matthew and then Mark, we're gonna kill him, but we better not kill him on the feast day, because these Jews will tear us up. So let's get some understanding. If he wasn't killed on the feast day, when did they kill him? When did they kill him? So let's drop down to John 8:31. Go over to John 8:31. And we're going to walk this down again and try to take our time and see if we can make it a little clearer than last week.